buying and selling properties, navigating the market, investment strategies, and more. Unlock the secrets to our success in the real estate game. Hey, y'all, welcome back to our podcast, the Nameless Podcast. We're going to make sure.
We're going to give it though, y'all.
One of these days we'll have a name. But for now, I just want to bring you back. My name is Lindsay West, and
I am Topekia Carter. Bullock Carter, that is, excuse me.
Oh.
And I am Tristain O'Donnell. Tristain Yankowski O'Donnell, that is.
There we go.
I got all these.
We better do it. We better do it right,
and all
girl.
this stuff.
My wife is listening to this podcast. I hear one more time, your name is Bullock Carter.
Oh.
Y'all saw how
Do you?
Well, say it, friend.
Rick is looking at me, and he's like,
"Oh, go ahead. What's your name, Lindsay?"
It's Lindsay. It's Lindsay.
Lindsay.
Love you so much. I love you so much. It doesn't mean anything. Those names mean nothing. It's about me and you. Okay. All right.
Way to clean it up.
So today's episode, we are going to deep dive into, okay, so first of all, we're realtors, right?
Yes, we are real estate professionals.
In the Atlanta area, and top producing realtors, shall I say, And so, of course, we've helped tons of people get to purchasing their own homes. But I think it's even funnier when I look back at the story of my own personal purchases, right?
Agreed.
So I feel like today's a good day. Oh, I don't know why this thing want to be in my way. I think today's a perfect day to get down and dirty about our purchases and what we've gone through because, let's also say this. There's a lot of agents who ain't never bought a house. No shade, no tea, but I mean, so it's good to see that like we have been in your shoes. Like we've seen what you've seen.
Mm-hmm. We've gone through
We've gone through hella horror stories.
Yeah.
Like I know I've had crazy. Yeah. So this episode is where we're going to deep dive into our personal purchases. Mm-hmm. And so
the stories behind them.
The stories behind them, the stress behind them, the good behind them.
And I think everyone probably has a story. Out of 10 transactions, say that you do or somebody does, probably one of those is like no stress, no mess, no nothing.
Sure.
It doesn't mean anything is wrong. It's just there are a lot of factors that play in. Every deal and transaction is different. Every buyer's different. Every seller is different.
Yes.
So just be ready and be strong and it's worth
ready.
it.
Fight the good fight because I think we'll talk about that later how we feel about our purchases. But let's get started. All right.
Listen, because I think, and y'all chime in on this. Like, after purchasing my home, I'm like, it's easy to be the realtor, but when you're the one that's going through it,
Right.
I mean, I get the emotional
roller coaster.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I probably was the realtor from hell.
Yeah, we're the worst clients. We are the worst clients. And
do you think it's because of what we know and how we think things are supposed to go based on our professionalism and like things just, I don't know. There's really no real answer to that.
I've had other agents ask me to be the agent for them, represent them on a sell or buy because they're like, I'm my own worst person and agent and everything, which is absolutely understandable.
Yes. Yeah. That would be me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I made it.
Right.
And I know two good agents whenever you're ready to sell your house.
That can help you. We can facilitate.
Sure. Please and thank you. Just let me know where to sign.
And I was not an agent. The home that I'm going to talk about is our current home, but I was not an agent at that time. So I was actually just a regular, person trying to buy a home. But from the agent
perspective. Were you the client from hell?
No, okay. I probably...
Not hell. All clients are amazing.
Ting. So, but I was naive. I think I was a lot naive because obviously I didn't know the background of being an agent, right? So I think there were some things that I got a little swindled on. But
do you feel like the agent that you had, and it doesn't matter who it is, but sat down with you and walked through like, here's the process, here are things that you should expect, like there are the goods and the bads.
Mm-hmm.
I think that alone makes it less stressful. Like we have to realize as agents, we do this every day.
They
Buyers
do
and
not.
sellers don't. It's important that we sit down and explain to them, like, the pros, the cons, what could come. It's like when you go into surgery, you need to know, like, what could possibly happen. Not just like, we're going to do surgery. You want to know they're cutting here and doing this and what to expect during and what to expect when you come out of it and your treatment plan for after. So it's kind of like that.
Yes.
We're like doctors.
Like that, friend.
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
We're not like doctors.
And that's why we have to have a buyer's consultation.
Yeah.
You know, or a seller's consultation.
I literally just had a buyer that came to my open house on Sunday, and she's been calling me because I was like referring my lenders to her because she was going through a different bank.
Yes.
I won't name that bank. And I said, well, have you had a buyer's consultation yet? And she was like, no, what's that? But her realtor called me on Monday to make sure that I knew that she was her realtor because she hadn't had a consult, hadn't referred a lender or anything. She's working with my lender. She's calling me.
Right.
Like all the things.
Right.
And she had I thought you were going to say she didn't have an agent.
Well, she has one.
And the agent called you. What she want?
She just want to know send me the disclosures. Where are we in the process?
What an
You should
agent.
know. You should know where.
This is your client.
What an agent.
This is your client.
Sounds like somebody's cousin down at the church was recommended to be a agent.
She just want me to know that she's her agent.
You know how I see them be
Yeah.
like, you got to use Charlene.
Yeah. I said, well, I don't want
And Charlene,
shade to Charlene.
No shade to Charlene.
but listen, you need a buyer's consult. This is going to make it easier for you if you know the steps in terms of this.
Oh, bless her heart. Well, we'll wish her the best.
Yep.
Okay.
Tink, tink. Go ahead.
All right. So who's gonna go first?
Girl, I'll go first because listen.
Okay.
Listen, when I tell you.
Okay. All right. Which house is this?
And
Is this
I've never heard this story.
Right.
I've heard some of it, but this is the current home that you live in, right?
Yes, but that's not the horror story. The home that we live in is the great story.
Okay.
But it was still a story behind it.
Okay.
All right. So new construction, right?
But I want the whole encompassing story of that house. Mm-hmm.
Which one? The one that we didn't get?
The story of how you got to this
Okay,
point.
that's
Yes.
where we're headed. So first of all,
Yes.
okay, so we're under contract, new construction, right? I'm a realtor. Several things went wrong. They put the wrong floors in the wrong room, just different stuff, like different stuff. They worked through it, so I can make a very long story short. And the last piece to this new construction that I felt like I was piecing together, even though it's the same builder of the current home that we live in,
wow.
it's just we live in a bigger home than the one that we were getting. And the last straw was they painted the brick, and the brick was supposed to stay the brick color, and they painted it gray. And we had already put in our notice that we were leaving our current place, and I literally, guys, sat on the curb like a little kid. I was so upset, in tears, just like, we're not getting this house, because that took away from the characteristics of the home, and
That made you
screwed
like
up.
it.
And y'all know brick, when you paint it, it'll never be restored to
It'll
it just won't be,
to the
right?
brick.
So the agent tried. She was like, to a certain degree. She said, well, we'll see what we can do. I said, there's nothing for you to do. Of course, I've got earnest money on the table.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, let's see what the builder can do. If he'll replace it, then we'll be fine.
Right.
He wasn't willing to do that, and we had already gone through a few steps, right? So I said, okay, fine. We just won't get this house. And she said, I don't think, she was trying to talk me out of it. I don't think that if you're feeling the way in which you're feeling, that you should move forward with this home. And I couldn't understand why she was trying to talk us out of it. And I was so upset about it. And then the same night that happened, we go back home. Raisha gives me the phone and say, hey, babe, look at this house. I was so upset. I said, I don't want to see another house. Don't show me another. I don't want to see the home. Then I calmed down. I take a look at the home, and I was like, oh, this is really cute. But then I'm looking at the purchase price being like, I think $20,000 more than what we were currently on the contract with. And I said, girl, we can't afford this house. Stop showing me this. So I look at it, and I'm like, oh, this is really cute, though. It looks like us. So then I calmed down. I said, okay, I'll go see it tomorrow. Drive to the community, FaceTime her, walk through the house with her, FaceTime her, walking through the home. It literally just took me all the way in. I said, babe, this is our house.
What was like so special about it when you first walked it?
So when I first walked in, it was just, first of all, it was clean. Y'all
We've all seen
know
the
I'm
house. It's
OCD.
gorgeous.
It's
Y'all know I'm
gorgeous,
OCD.
yes.
And I felt like this guy lives like I live. You know what I'm saying? Like no stone unturned. It was just gorgeous. And just the aesthetics, everything about it. How sometimes we tell our clients it's never going to be 100%?
Right.
I can honestly say we got 100%
of what
Wow.
and that's a big
That's
deal because
huge.
it is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I walk out, hung up with Raisha. I said, "This is our home. We're an agent. We're agents." So
Right.
I'm like, okay, they just reduced it by 10,000. I go sit in the driveway, call the agent, and I go, "I'm about to send you an offer." And I told Raisha, I said, "We've got to get into a home now because if we don't,
You're
it was
gonna be
pre-COVID.
homeless.
It was pre-COVID. It was pre-COVID, y'all." I said, "If we don't get one now, we're gonna be in trouble." This is June 2020. I submit the offer. I told the lady I'm going to submit an offer. I gave them $20,000 worth of earnest money
Oh,
because
nice.
I
You
knew
were
I
like,
was.
"I want
I
this."
knew I had to show that I was really interested in it,
Yeah.
and it worked out. We ended up. I'm gonna back up. We ended up closing on the same day that we were supposed to close on the other one.
Oh,
But let me
nice.
back up. We were under contract with 2 homes. So then the agent calls me back. We're out of town. Raisha never saw the house. We went under contract. She's not seen the house, but she found the house. She was always the person to find our house or the houses that we thought we would potentially get. And she said, "Well, he's gonna make it right. He's gonna go ahead and repair the brick." I said, "No, never mind. I'm good." She said, "Are you sure?" Yes, I'm very sure because legally.
Right.
2 houses at one
Yeah.
time. So I was just like, yeah. And at that point, Raisha said, "Well, what about our earnest money?"
Yeah.
I said, "It doesn't matter. Like, this is our home." If
How
I
much
lose
earnest
it-
money was that?
6,500, but I got it back. Y'all know.
You did?
Yeah, I got it back.
good.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that's our little story. I was a kid having a tantrum. She was the one to keep me calm.
What kind of did you experience any like negotiation with the? I know you said you put down 20,000 earnest money.
Yep.
But was there any back and forth? Did you feel like the other side was just very receptive, or were there any issues with that like process?
There were no issues. It was really us wanting like certain things that they had, like planters, leave
Right.
this, leave that, like,
Yes.
and we were negotiating like leave the drapes. I don't want to have to change
Yeah.
that. Leave the wash and dryer. Like it's been customly fit to for this wash and dryer. So I was just like leave that. We paid for it, but it was brand new, so it was fine. It was a really great transaction.
What about the loan process?
Well, I went through probably, guys, honestly, about 5 different lenders because I wanted the best deal for
Shop
bang for
your
my buck.
lenders.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yes.
shop
Yes,
the
and
shop the lenders.
You gotta shop the
do.
lenders.
And a little tip, I have 2 things to say about your entire.
Go
but
ahead,
a little
Fran, tell
tip is you can, once you have one lender pull your credit,
Yes.
within, I always tell my clients 2 weeks, it is really probably 4 weeks, and I'll say 2 weeks to 3 weeks. You can have 500 lenders pull your credit
And it won't.
within that time frame, and it's not going to hurt your scores. It's going to, each of the pulls is going to show up,
Correct.
but they're going to count against you as if it's one credit pull and should not extremely bring
Yeah.
down your score. So shop for,
Because they
shop for the best
expect you to
rate.
shop for
it.
the best
Right.
rate.
It's
You
a
do
little
not-
extra
for
time.
the same reasons. That's
Yeah.
why it's only one hard pull.
It's the
right?
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same for cars.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a
Yeah.
car dealer, but
But yeah.
You're right.
cars and mortgages.
Right.
Yeah.
So get it done, get it quick.
Yes.
But
But I had a particular lender that was like, we worked with her before. And
Yes.
she was just like, "I'm gonna close this deal for you," and she got it done.
Yeah.
Like the other lenders they couldn't touch her, and I only needed 1 year of tax returns,
As a
which was
self,
which was really good.
that's
as well.
very
Yeah,
self-employed
a lot of
people.
times it's 2 years.
It's 2
so
years,
You got to know
yep.
your scenario and find
Yeah.
Yep.
the right person. Well, 2 things that I hear from this that I think people should know is number 1, I can say, and y'all may agree, I've never had a client that did not get a house, like you didn't get that other house that you thought was the one. And that was for a reason. And now you are like so happy about it. And yes, you were like devastated at the
Yes.
time. But I've seen where one house doesn't work out, you get it, but then the inspection doesn't work out, or you just
Yes.
don't get it when you write the offer, and it seems like the end of the world.
does.
But there is a reason, and everyone has said that happened for a reason. Like this is this next house or whatever it is.
always,
It always. No
yeah.
one's ever not gotten a house and regretted it
To the day.
to the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
There's a reason. And the other thing people ask, how do you know when it's your house? And you walked in and you said, I just know. And my client's like, how am I going to know? And I'm like, I'm the agent. I can't tell you when you know. I can give you all the information, but you're just going to know when
going
you're just going to know.
That's right. It's so
gonna
true. It's
feel-
so
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And I was like, that other house was never for us.
Right.
And it's literally the same builder, very next neighborhood. And the funny part is, we had gone through that neighborhood at least 5 different times. Like
Yeah.
the one that
Wow.
we currently live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has being in that environment, that neighborhood, how has that changed your life? Like that life of being in your subdivision. I know that you talk about like your
My
neighborhood.
neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my second home. What I realized is that I didn't have a relationship with my neighbors in my previous home
Mm-hmm.
because I have such a relationship with my current neighbors, and
Yeah.
it's just it feels good. Like I literally have relationships with people up and down my street. We gather
Yeah.
and we talk and we look out for one another. Like I'm going out of town. Okay, great. When are you coming back? Like, can
Yeah.
you get my mail off the porch? Just
Right.
look out. Just if
Yeah.
you see anything weird. And I didn't have a relationship with these people like that
Yeah.
before they started to show that, hey, we're all in this together and we're going to look out for you,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been great. I really do love our neighborhood. So yeah.
Mhm. Okay. That was
Shouts out to East Side Walk.
shout out to East Side Walk.
I love that neighborhood.
Okay, that's a really, that feels like a wholesome story. That was, that was a good one.
Yeah.
That was
Child, I was shaking in my boots. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a situation, but
Okay, I'm gonna go with Tristan because I feel like I actually don't know anything about. Like I know that you bought this house, and I know what you did,
Yeah.
but I don't know nothing about how you got it, how you found it, all the things.
I'm going to tell you 2 stories, and I'm going to make them quick. But
Okay.
2, my very, very first house, I think I was like 21. I was in the business. I was actually doing mortgages.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I can't keep giving people mortgages and me not have a mortgage. That was one reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, it was my rent just kept going up and up and up. And at that point, I was in Atlanta with $640 rent, and it was going up to $675. And I was like, no, imagine
'cause
that right
it's
now.
right,
Like,
right.
rent, like people would die for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a place that was like a little townhouse, and was like, this is, and it was across the street from where I was renting. And I was like, this is gonna, same mortgage payment as rent, maybe a little less. Anyway, I was waiting tables at the time. So, income on waiting tables, you not claiming nothing, like all that. But we made it work. Gave my notice, got to the day before the closing. The lender needed something else, which then pushed the closing back another 3 or 4 days. But then I had nowhere to live. I had nowhere to live. I
Oh.
wasn't from Georgia. I didn't have family here. So I ended up speaking to the seller, and he let me move in 3 or 4 days early.
Oh,
And so
Wow.
I moved everything the first day that I stayed there. My friends came and met me. Again, we were in our 20s. We're just out partying, drinking. And we went over, and I was like, this is my new house. And they're like, we have to sleep here. And I was like, there's nothing here, because I was moving the next day. And they're like, we don't care. So we literally brought blankets,
Wow.
brought drinks. We slept on the floor and just
dope.
like hung out there. So
Yeah.
that was another like
That's a
wholesome story,
cute-
but also
yes.
like working through,
Yeah.
Especially being a
it.
waitress.
Yeah, yeah. And people always wonder, like, how do you buy a home? Because the income's just so different.
Yeah.
And all that. So
I was so
there's a way.
carefree when we were younger.
Oh my
Yeah.
We don't
gosh.
care. We just
We
want
have
to be together.
Like no
It
inhibitions.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We slept on the floor. And they all were about it. I was like, we can't. And they were like, we
Yeah,
are.
we can.
Yeah.
But my story of the house that we live in now, it was a burnt out shell. There were no walls, there was no electrical, there was no nothing. And it was a ranch style 1920 craftsman bungalow. And we lived a couple blocks over, but knew we needed a bigger house. And this one, and we're in a historic district as well, so there's only so much you can do. So walked in the house, and I was like, this is it. I already had like the floor plan in my mind laid out. I started drawing it out. We could add a second floor, which was amazing for
Yes,
being
it
able to
is.
stay there long term and have family come visit. It was
Yes.
just like everything.
Yeah.
So wrote the offer. Actually, my husband, I was like, hey, I'm writing an offer on this house. And he was like, what? And I was like, I gotta go. I'll call you back later.
Sounds familiar.
So then, and that's probably happened 2 times on houses we've bought. And so wrote the offer on Thursday, had a deadline of the seller to sign by Friday. He sends it back to me like after the deadline,
Uh-huh.
but the seller had signed it before the deadline, but he didn't send it back to me until
After. Uh-huh.
But he sent it back Saturday morning, and it was signed and binded for the day that was necessary and everything.
Right.
So then I started asking him like about earnest money, where do I send it? Because it was being held by the closing attorney or somebody different. So then he started to ghost me. And I had already, like, this is Thursday to Saturday to Sunday to Monday. He has completely disappeared, stopped answering my calls.
Oh, wow.
And then finally on Monday or Tuesday, he was like, sorry, we didn't get you back the contract until after the deadline, so we're not under contract. And I was like, you must not know I'm an agent, number one. Number two, I actually looked at the contract to see when the seller signed. It doesn't matter when agents sign. It matters when the buyer and the seller come to an agreement.
Because they are under
contract. He had signed at like 3:00 on Friday.
Which was within your time frame.
But the guy didn't send it back to me until Saturday. So he was trying. And I think what happened was somebody else came to him after they signed. They didn't have an agent. So he was trying to get both sides. That's what I'm thinking. So long story short, he was like, nope, you're not under contract. And I was like, I was going to use a bad word.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And so then I had to write out like timeline and justification, and I sent it to my broker, and my broker backed me up and called his broker and was like, here's the deal. And so they ended up having to sell it to us.
Wow.
And not having to, they agreed to. Like, stop trying to be shady.
Right.
So people will do, you got to know you got to know your rules and your laws or whatever.
Right.
To understand that. Because another agent may have just told their client, like, oh, they were not under contract. Like,
changed their
so
minds.
knew that as being my own agent. And then came everything else with, we finally got to the closing. And I'll tell you, I was like, I don't know how I'm buying this house, but we're getting it. And sometimes it's just like that. You're like, I'm getting this. There's nothing that's stopping me. So made a whole bunch of things happen. Nothing illegal, but to like make it, to get it. Yeah, I didn't rob a bank or anything. But made it happen because I was like, this is my house. This is my 20-year house. This is the house my kids are going to know for 20 years. And we closed on it, and then came everything else, adding a second floor, all
massive
the stuff.
renovation, massive
300,000 probably plus renovation. But we knew we were going to be there. I imagined both of our families coming at the same time. It's just that thing, like, I'm like, this is the house we can be in for forever, and I'm not letting it go, so.
Never.
And you built it that way.
Yes, I mean, it's perfect. The floor plan, it's you always have.
Her family, parents, and then his parents as well.
It's very thoughtful. There's there's so much space. And your backyard, I mean, even if you needed to still do some adding on, which I don't know that you will, but
and
I don't think we need to.
Party house.
And we're like by the park.
Yes.
My kids can just walk down to the park, and we're by the belt line.
Well,
like
you also have to talk. I was gonna say you have such a connection to your neighbor. This is like in town living. We all are in town livers. And I think that is by far one of the coolest things about being in
Shout out to my neighbors. Shout out to Adair Park.
Yes.
Like, I could send a text message right now. We have group texts like, hey, can somebody go over to my house right now and put water on the stove because I need to make something when I come home. And 12 people would be like, I got you. They all have a code to our house. We were out of town once, and one of our neighbors, they had gotten a babysitter and went out, and they were like, we're not ready to go home. Where can we go? So she texted me like, hey, can we go have a date night on your back porch? We were out of town. I was like, yeah, go ahead. You got a code. Go in. So they just like hooked up to the Sonos, enjoyed like being in the house, which I love.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, there have been times where I'm like, can anyone watch our kids? Like, I have to run to a quick showing. Ryan's not home. Within 10 minutes, they're like, drop him off here. We'll come there. There's always somebody there to help you. There's always somebody there to party with you. The kids get to just play and
free,
ride their bikes and be free. And our neighbors are not just young people, but my neighbors to the left of me, she's probably 80. The neighbor to the right of me is somewhere in 70s, 80s as well. And we all take care of each other. We look out for them any way that we can. And our neighborhood even calls neighbors that have been there a long time legacy neighbors. We make sure during Thanksgiving that we are dropping off food for them, and we're like assigned to help and make sure somebody is checking in on them. It is really just one of those. It's how I grew up in our neighborhood.
we
all know each other.
We wave for your children.
I went to walk out to check my mail, and this neighbor's over here coming out walking his dog. This neighbor's over here picking up leaves for another elderly neighbor. Everyone's just like, hey, how are you doing? Like, it's that neighbor. It's the neighborhood.
Top tier neighbors, top tier neighborhood. Shout out to that.
Tell us how you got your home, which I love.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
We all love one another's home.
Yes.
We do. We do. We like. So the current home that we live in, First of all, we owned a salon. This is back in that life, right? We were owning a salon. We lived in a
before nursing, salon.
After nursing.
Okay.
Before real estate. Before I was an agent. We were living in a condo, but we knew we were growing our family. And Rick, we knew we wanted to have another child. We only had one child. So we were like, I was like, babe, if you want another baby out of me, we gonna need to get another house. Because we were living in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo. All right. So somehow we took the Beltline tour, right? Which I always tell my people, take the Beltline tour. That's when they had the coach bus, not the coach, they had the air-conditioned school buses going around.
What do they have now?
Now they do bike tours and they do coach bus. I don't think they do actually. I think they only do bike tours now.
Okay.
So anyway, we took the tour, fell in love with the historic West End neighborhood. Don't ask me why or how, because I didn't know not a soul or a thing. Actually, I did know one person, but we were not that close for me to be like, I want to live here, right? Right. So we take this tour, we end up doing this walking tour. We took the bus tour, then we do a walking tour. We end up realizing this is the neighborhood. Yeah. And one day I tell Rick, I'm going to go look at houses with this man that I met on the tour, right? This agent that I met on the tour randomly. I was like, babe, he just told me he got a house that's not on the market. And at that time, our neighborhood was like one of those hot neighborhoods where there were multiple offers every time a house went up on the market. So I go to look at this house. He takes me to actually look at a house in Westview that I thought I was going to try to make it work because I wanted to be in the area, right? So I was like, but the master was on the top level and the guest bedrooms were on the main. That could not work for a family, obviously. Right. So then he says, I got one more house, and it's pouring, raining. Get to the house, and the house is completely gutted out. There's no walls. There's nothing in this shit.
This up.
I said, this is it. This is my baby.
No.
This gonna be the one. This gonna be the one. Yeah, it was a hot mess. He said, but, they're actively renovating it. You can still probably pick out cabinets and fixtures and stuff, and you can pick the floor, the stain color and all that stuff. I'm like, bet. This is it. I called Rick. I said, baby, we going under contract. He's like, what? Now, mind y'all, we ain't got a pot. We ain't got no piss in the pot or a pot.
Or a window.
And Rick is on the other line like, huh? I done signed his name on the contract.
Let
me tell you something. We under contract. Now, why didn't I think about, do I need an agent? I let this man dual agency me. That's how I told you I was naive. I didn't know no better. I didn't know. I just knew I wanted the house.
You've got to tell the story.
So we go under contract. We pick out all the fixtures. It becomes the thing that, we wanted. We really were able to kind of like personalize it. It was the perfect space. Ended up, meeting some neighbors. Everything worked out. Anyway, let me back it up. So we do the walking tour, and we meet up with the one person that I knew in the area. She ends up introducing us to now our really good friends, Joy and Corey, who lives on our street. We knock on the door, don't know them from a can of paint. It's Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. We're pushing my baby in the stroller. Joy answers the door and is like, hey. And she's like, the girl that we know, the mutual friend, is like, they need to see your house. And Joy's like, okay. And we literally walk up and through Joy's house. And that's when I realized, like, I need a house in the West End for real, for real. Right. Like, these houses are gorgeous. Yes. They're one of a kind. No two houses look the same.
Yes.
Everything. And then this neighbor girl just let me in without any questions asked, right? So Joy puts on her shoes. We end up walking down the street for the rest of the tour, and we walk past this house. And she says, you know what, y'all? I think that house is getting ready to be renovated or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it just so happenstance that I met the agent at the walking tour who said I got another house.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Get into contract. We know nothing about nothing. We have an inspection. Of course, the inspection was okay. Nothing crazy came up. However, I think even if it did, I was still going to get the house. Rick is like, he's just like, whatever, you do you. You done figured this shit out. Whatever, we'll figure it out. Come down to the taxes. You know how when you're renovating, the taxes end up being more. Yeah. Turned out we needed $14,000 more to close. We didn't have that because we barely had the money. We robbed the bank. We barely had the money for the down payment and the closing costs or what have you, right? Also, so end up having to beg my mom for the money. She gives it to us.
My mom gave me money for my first one.
Listen,
the townhouse. I
listen.
was like, Mom,
We need you. We need you. Just come through with a
Mom.
duffel bag.
Right. Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. We go under contract. We end up not appraising because at that time houses were,
oh yeah,
it wasn't, the values weren't here in the
Right.
South Side, Southwest Atlanta. And so we didn't appraise for $2,000 less than the contract price.
not horrible.
Not
I've seen
horrible,
a lot worse.
But
Now you
because
gotta
I
bring
was being
14,000
dual
plus.
agency'd,
Yeah.
I didn't have a dog in the fight.
Come to the table with the difference.
But don't worry, the fight was in the dog. You feel me?
That's what I'm saying. There you go.
So the fight was in the dog.
Better talk, lion.
So, you know what I'm saying? So, anyhow, we were able to negotiate that out, okay? And we ended up closing. And it was this house is literally one of, like, the best decisions we could have made as a family.
Yeah.
I mean, the friendships, I met you through being in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
My neighbors, Joy and Core, who were the first people we met, are now our like closest friends. Our kids know the neighbors. We're all so connected. I've seen the neighborhood change. It like literally hands down one of the best decisions of my life. And I just don't see us ever selling this place.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a family home, like you said. It's going to be one of those homes, like, we
It's so
ended
awesome.
up like having, there's so much equity in our homes now.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
all three of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, honey. We sitting on bags.
Oh, bags
Okay,
and bags.
sitting on bags.
Hiring to the beach after
I know.
20 years or whatever.
And our kids go to the neighborhood school, a dream. It's literally a dream. It is a dream for our family, the diversity. And then now we have all these crazy developments right at our fingertips. New bars, new restaurants. We get to go on date nights with our neighbors and really have literally. So while I say all of that, like, I think we all had some experience in our journey of purchasing, like
for sure.
scary stuff, almost pulling out your contract, right? Like telling you that you didn't have a house.
Right. I was like,
Losing earnest money, possibly.
Right, possibly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming up with 14 grand on the fly.
Did you ever pay your mom back, by the way?
I did.
Yeah.
Thanks for, because she would have,
Wasn't having
I
it.
did pay her back, y'all. She got paid now. I did take another loan since then, so, but she's the ride or die, thankfully. So, but yes, like, the housing market is scary, right? Like, it is a scary thing if you're, especially for me, I wasn't an agent at the time, and I just look back on all the things that, like, I was swindled in a way, but it was the perfect timing. And like you guys said, like, you think you're missing out on other things, and then when you land at your place, it feels great. Yeah. So,
I mean, the minute you just said the housing market is so different, like, I think about my first home, guys, I literally brought $1,000 to the closing table.
that part.
$1,000. My mortgage was $1,075.
I think my mortgage was $700.
Ours
with
was
taxes and
$700
insurance. It was
at our
ridiculous.
condo. It was like $700 plus our HOA was like $250.
Yeah.
And what was your rates back then? Mine was
5.5,
5.5,
I think.
now. 6, I think 6.
I was clacking my heels under 6.
Yep,
I was like, oh, this is great.
I think 6.5. 6
And how much did you end up? Just real quick, I know Rick is giving me the wrap it up sign. But how much did you end up selling that condo for? Do you remember?
I bought it for like 90 something, I think, and I sold it for I think 150.
But you had to.
How long did you stay in there?
Not long, a couple years. I kept it as a rental, and I also sold it to like pay for our wedding.
Yeah.
And we,
Yeah.
It was a savings account for me.
Yeah.
I looked at it
It's
like
a savings account.
If I put
Exactly.
money and pay rent, I'm not getting that back.
That's
At
right.
minimum, I'm going to get back everything that I
you put in
into
there.
it, and it's a savings account, so it all comes back to me.
Exactly. So we're going to wrap up this episode, but that is our stories on the home purchase.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, we've purchased other properties as well, so we could even go down an investment route one day. Oh, an investment
Next episode.
next episode or episode soon.
Episode.
But thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope this encourages you, this conversation about purchasing your home and knowing that even us as realtors, we go through the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster.
And it's not easy, but nothing's ever going to kill you with it. Like,
No. no.
It's worth it, and
so worth
just
it.
stick with it.
That's
Stick
right.
with
You'll
it
get to the other
and
side of it,
call
it's
us
so
if
beautiful.
you need help, of
Yes.
course.
Right.
Yes.
Don't forget-
Consultation. Call us for consultation.
Hire
It is the most
consultation, yes.
important.
Listing presentation.
Or seller consultation.
Yes.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, all the things down in the DMs, all the things, the comments, everything. Light our comments up. Tell us about your experience. Tell us the good, the bad, the ugly.
the
We
good,
want to
bad,
hear.
the ugly.
Yes, all the
Go
other
follow
stories.
us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube,
all
the
those
channels.
things.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next time. Take care.